It's Thursday, December 10. New broadcast today for a weekly online program, Real Chat.
Sports chat.
Any chat,
Chat your chat.
real chat, because our voices are to be heard.
For real.
Our voices this afternoon will be heard, will be heard on education, as eyebrows could easily be raised over the Education Ministry's report that primary level students significantly affected from the 9-month closure of schools because of COVID is not to be considered a crisis, but a chance, words to the effect, to chip away at what's challenging.
Uh,
Hi, I'm Curtis
Thank you
Myrie.
very much, Curtis. I'm Stratton Palmer. Time to weigh in on how this important problem should be really addressed.
Yes, it has to be addressed, eh? It has to be addressed.
And what's the problem?
Because we wonder whether this is about chipping away. What does this mean? Is this how it is to be addressed? Or a radical transformation is needed? We have Devon Maxwell on the line, Region 4 Chairman of the National Parent Teachers Association, and his region covers St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. Hi, Devon.
Hi Curtis, how you doing?
We're doing well. Tell me something, Devon. St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland. School out because of COVID for a number of months, 9 months to be exact. What's happening? How are the students at the primary level in particular? Students, parents, what's the experience like? What's the problem?
Uh, all right, let me say good afternoon to the panelists and to persons who may be listening to the program this afternoon, and I'm happy that you have me online. All right, the experience is not really a good one. I am trying to, as a matter of fact, I won't even want to dissect what the ministry is saying, that it is not
It's not a crisis.
is not a crisis.
Is it a crisis?
It is a crisis. I considered it, or we considered it as a crisis. You see, this pandemic is nothing planned for in the globe, globally that is.
Right.
Nothing that nobody planned for. It hits us by surprise. And you have to adjust to so many changes, including closure of school. And where the crisis comes in now is this whole halabu about this internet thing that some parents even have access to until this day. So it has to be considered as a crisis. It has to be considered as a crisis, Curtis. It is.
Certainly so. But do you think that enough thought had gone into it before it was even put out to the teachers? I mean, out to the teachers. You know at an understanding of what that plan is or was?
I'm not hearing Stratton clearly.
Okay. He's saying that if you were clear on how teachers were to proceed, if that was clear, you are Parent Teachers Association. You interact with teachers. So the issue is, did you see a smooth rollout in terms of children using tablets, having Wi-Fi access, that sort of thing?
We like I said, Stratton, none of us see that coming. But the fact we just have to adjust ourselves to the present situation. It is a crisis, it is a pandemic, and it has to be treated that way.
Why I asked, Devon, is because I remember as a youngster we used to went to go to Oak Gardens, and there's a maze there, and you get lost. But sooner or later, you find your way out. Or is the teaching fraternity seeing its way out of this present problem?
Right. Well, I will understand where you're coming from, Stratton. I will understand, but the present situation, I don't think that we as a parenting body, I don't think we have much of an answer to
What,
it.
what, what, what do parents complain about in your neck of the woods?
All right, then parents are complaining, teachers are complaining, students are complaining, because for instance, let me start with the students. Students want to get online for class sometimes, and sometimes they cannot get on. Right? Parents are complaining because they don't have devices. Some parents have just one cell phone, and they have to leave the phone at home with their children or child to access for online work.
And that in itself is a problem.
That by itself is a problem. The teachers, they are getting so fed up with the system that is not working, because sometimes when they do get the children online, they are not getting the full attention. The children are not being monitored, and a lot of things goes on when they are online, when they are not monitored.
All right. You cover St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland.
That is right.
How is the community helping? The business community, organizations? Who, the tablets being offered to students from various corporations. Is that happening?
All right. It's apart from some primary schools. Some schools have access, some have not yet received.
I'm listening to you. You know,
And what the ministry send out, they send out an information that the person must access through an ID number, and they have to be calling the ministry to get the ID number. And when they do call the ministry, they're not getting through.
Um, I I had the fortune of being a producer for some docu-features on the digital platform as class, because school is still in. Though closed, the school is still in, because a classroom can be anything. Classroom can be anywhere. And when some of the principals addressed the issue, yes, they mentioned the problems with Wi-Fi, but there was also, for some parents, some students who didn't have access to tablets and so on, there would be various WhatsApp groups, so the teachers could still be able to give pointers in those chat groups, for parents to be able to understand what is going on, and for students to be monitoring. Is that happening? Is that being used as a means of engaging students?
It's not. It might be happening in some areas, but for us in Region 4, we have. I cannot safely say yes that it is happening. We have this thing. We have a lot of catch up to do in terms of getting all what is required up and running. That of which you have mentioned is also a sore eye as we speak.
How do you see this
And
thing being
and I ca-
solved? How do you see this
I
thing being rectified?
all right. The only way, well, let me not say the only way, but part of the solution to the problem, I believe that the government, because when they present whatever to make the news, when they present information that make the news, you will take it and say, well, it is sounding good. But after the news and they are not following up on their promises, that is where the problem comes in.
Okay.
And then when people hear these things on news, they start to blame the school because them tell us that the government say. And when the schools are in fact waiting on the government to deliver what they said.
How's the face-to-face rollout now that is taking place with some schools? Because I'm
We did
hearing
it.
over 100 more schools are to be opening their doors face-to-face. Although the JTA is objecting because of the season that we're in. This is Christmas. You don't. I mean, one has to be careful. It is the season that everybody is getting together, so you fear another spike. I mean, I gather the JTA is saying, why don't we leave the reopening of schools until January, until this season has passed?
Because of the 69
All
next,
right.
out to go next week.
Curtis, what we does in Region 4, and I can tell you that we have a dedicated set of executive members. We with the rolling out opening of the schools in our region, we not just allow the opening of schools without we are satisfied as parents. What we do, we design an assessment form for the region. We send members to assess the schools if the schools does meet the criteria for opening. If not, we fail to proceed.
So even though the government is saying one thing, the actual thing is not taking place on the ground.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Curtis?
Say that again. Say that again.
I was saying that the schools in our region, that is on the rollout program. Because you know they are doing it phase by phase.
All right. So
Our executives kept busy, and we visit those schools. And our executive, we have a form that is designed, an assessment form, to find out that if we are comfortable with what is put in place to facilitate the reopening.
all right, Devon Maxwell, Region 4 Chairman of the National Parent Teachers Association. One final question. You have been seeing all that has been happening. Recommend as we chip away, or perhaps taking the bull by the horns for us to make a serious change to what is happening? Any particular recommendation?
I am recommending, we in Region 4, we are recommending the reopening of face-to-face classes, but with proper supervision, with all the protocols in place. That is what we are recommending.
Sounds simple enough.
All right. Okay, Sir Devon, and thanks for talking with us, right?
Thanks much, Curtis and Stratton. All the best.
Thanks.
Good, good, good. Back in a moment
Okay.
with Real Chat.
Well, I just wanted to share with you the two pregnant issues that were put out, and this is what the public is not getting. That promises are made by the government, but it is not being carried out. It is, it is not reaching where it is supposed to reach. So what it suggests is that the PR campaign continues in terms of what is put up for public consumption. But the people who should be benefiting are not getting the promises.
There's a disconnect.
Disconnect, yes.
There's a disconnect.
Yes.
All right. We'll talk more on the subject when we return. Okay, back with Real Chat, and we're discussing the issue of how primary level students in particular have been affected by the school closure owing to COVID. And we promise to talk to everybody, right, Stratton?
Right? Because
Parents, students, teachers, everybody.
no matter the parish, because we are moving over from Mr. David Maxwell era in the west.
Yes.
And we're going to Clarendon to speak to a young man.
Yes, we're talking to a young man, 11 years of age, Marlon Martin. He's preparing for PEP exams, and he's a student in Clarendon. Marlon, how are you?
Fine.
Wonderful. How are things, Marlon? What are some of the, have you been experiencing any problems with the online
No.
training?
No.
Oh, very good.
That's right.
So, how are, you are coping?
Huh?
You are doing very well, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any Wi-Fi problems?
No.
Good.
And the scheduling is okay in terms of when the teacher says they are ready for you, they come on time?
I don't have anyone.
No problem.
The teachers come on time, your classes start on time?
Huh?
Classes start on time when you do your work, your online work?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Who monitor the work that you're doing? Who look at the work and make sure that you're doing the right thing?
Who is checking your work?
My teacher.
Your teacher is checking your work. All right. You have all your friends are okay? You have anybody complaining so them not getting enough Wi-Fi connection?
No.
Okay.
So you're
So,
okay. Tell me, in terms of the PEP exam, you're confident that what you're doing is satisfying to you? You're okay with it?
all your preparations for PEP are fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So everybody is just getting along fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you'd like to see better? Is there anything that you wish could be improved, even though everything is fine? Is there anything that you think can be done better to make students more comfortable?
No.
Do you miss the classroom situation?
You miss school?
No.
All right. So everything is fine for you. You're quite okay, right?
Yeah.
All right. Guess what? We'll be talking to Marlon's father. His name is Marlon Martin too. When we return to see what's happening in his neck of the woods, and Marlon's father lives in St. Mary. Well, we're happy. Stratton.
That's a happy situation.
Yes, indeed. We'll be back in a while. All right. We are back. We are back with Marlon Martin Sr. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Your son doesn't miss school. He's fabulous with his online classes. And he says he has no Wi Fi problem. What's the story in St. Mary? What does your son tell you sometimes? Is your son telling us what he's telling you?
Yes, certainly.
Everything is in place, Wi-Fi is in place, the teachers are being clear and on time with him, and he's so comfortable that he does not miss school at all.
Yes.
What is the home situation like? Are there other young people in and around with him?
Pardon me?
Are there others with him?
Is his mother living?
No, are there others? Are there others with him? Does
Are
he?
there,
Yes, in his house in Clarendon. Does he have other brothers, sisters, cousins? Do they all get
No.
together? Okay.
no, he's all alone there.
Wow.
Oh,
With
he's
his
all
aunt.
alone there with his mother.
Aunt and grandma and grandfather.
Okay. Why do you think he's doing so well?
Because he keep in contact with him, like every day, to ensure that he logs in to class and everything is okay.
So are they monitoring with him? Are they sitting with him while he's taking classes?
Pardon me?
Are they sitting with him while he's taking classes? Does he
Yes.
have anybody supervising?
Yes.
Okay. And as you said, you check in with him every day to find out that he's to find out if he's logging in properly and so on, right?
Yes. And I keep dialogue with the teacher as well.
Okay.
Good support.
The teachers, have they detected any problem with him?
No. No.
All right, so
Because
Marlon, yeah, go ahead. You were saying.
Pardon me?
Yeah, you were just about to say something. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say that he sat few of his end of term exams since we, and his grades were absolutely applaudable.
Okay.
What was
Very well.
what was he like at the 4th grade and 5th grade level? Was he?
He's in 6th grade now.
Yeah, but they have some exams which are related to the PEP exam starting from grade 4. What was his
Yes.
schoolwork like at that time?
At that time, he was excellent. You know. 90 average 90, 100.
Yeah.
Is who smart? Is you or his mother? Don't answer that question. Don't answer that. Tell me what is happening in St. Mary. Your son seems to be quite fine in Clarendon. What are parents saying in St. Mary about this whole online experience?
Okay, the parents in St. Mary, they are having a difficult time with the online experience. Why? One of the main factors is that Wi-Fi services is not so prevalent in this side of the island like how it's in Clarendon, where my son is at now.
You know, I'm getting the impression, Curtis, that in Clarendon, because of the terrain flatland,
Yes,
that
yes.
you know it is more received there, but in St. Mary Hills and
Yes.
the difficulty, that's a problem which needs to be looked at.
Indeed.
Yes.
So they complain about the connectivity. Do they complain about anything else?
They complain about the connectivity. They complain about like data services because they don't have connectivity and data services. And some of them complain of time because most persons stated that they have to go to work and they don't have anyone to supervise the child at home.
Yeah. What about cost? Because to put on the data, sometimes the data thing
yes,
don't work
it's
too well,
cost.
you know.
Yes. That's why I'm saying they are complaining about the cost.
Yeah, and not only the cost, because sometimes you pay for a particular package and it finishes
Yes.
before time, like a 30-day package, and in 2
Yes.
weeks it's finished. And that
Yes.
wasn't explained to them when they were taking it out.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of those, there are those issues as well. But tell me this, the companies in St. Mary, are they helping students with tablets and so on? What sort of role the business sector is playing?
Okay, in this side of St. Mary, the truth to be told, I don't see where the private sectors are taking on any roles into like assist the parents or students read the whole online thingy. Everyone is basically on their own.
Oh, wow.
Only like for some schools, I see where some schools take the initiative into like for the students who don't have the internet connections very well. They can either come to the school,
Yeah.
they like go to the school within the class time and use the internet at the school, where facilities were set aside for them to come and to use the internet. And like for a school where Taki High School, where my spouse is the dean of discipline there, they have a drop off and pick up program. Yes, where the school bus do drop off and pick up on Thursdays and Tuesdays of every week, where they put together the work and drop off students pick up the work at prospective areas like in Gale, Ocherias, Ryanova, and Jefferton and Geyser.
Okay,
So
that
they
is
go to
something.
specific drop-off point.
Right, that is something which could be adopted elsewhere. You know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That the work is taken to a particular place where it is collected and disseminated. What
Yes.
about places that we saw a story of the police station would accept students to come in and use their service? And there are businesses which have areas that are reserved for some students to come and have a connection. Any of that is in St. Mary?
No, I'm not seeing where that is going on.
What
I'm not
side of
seeing
St.
that
Mary are
going
you?
on. I'm in Gale,
Gail.
Okay.
Western St. Mary to be exact.
Yes.
So, but our community is in Gale.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good show. And I'm glad that young Marlon is doing very well. But you certainly keep in touch. You monitor, you ensure that everything is well. So kudos to you as a father also.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Yes.
Thank you very much, Marlon. Nice talking to you. All right?
Yes. Same to you.
We will keep this conversation going, talking to students, talking to parents. More of the same when we return.
All right, from Clarendon, we move to St. Catherine, where we find Natalia Smith, student prefect at Ascot Primary.
Tell us something about your school, Natalia. What's Ascot Primary to you?
Hello?
What you like about your school?
Sir, can you repeat that?
Yes, what is Ascot Primary to you? What do you like about your school?
Well, the teachers there are nice. Our devotion always make me smile. And Well, the school is okay so far.
Okay.
So, when it was when it was closed, when you had to do online learning, what was that feeling like at first?
Well, the first time I had problem with getting the links because first I go in two classes and I didn't that wasn't my real class, and then I have to go to one more and I didn't have any tablets, so my mommy did have to go to work without any phone, so sometimes it's problem for her without her phone.
And you only use the phone for schoolwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, what is it like being a prefect at your school?
Well, to be a prefect, well, you always have to look out for others. You cannot fight when you're a prefect because you're supporting others. You're setting example for others. You have to set example for your classmates. Like for instance, if your classmate is fighting, you part them away from the fighting. You don't go into the fight.
All right. So you're not physically in school, but being a prefect, your friends are supposed to still check in on you. Other students check in on you. They do that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what do they tell you about their own experiences? Are they having some of the problems that you had? And how did you all overcome these problems?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, when your friends, call you to chat, right? Asking, they connecting as to what's happening. Good?
Or better, do you discuss schoolwork?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we discuss schoolwork, like sometimes Miss give us maths and we call a friend them to like,
Right.
can't we where the maths are, do you know? And she's you know,
Yes.
tell
So
one of
so 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 you still keep the bonding together, though. Everybody still
Communicate.
communicate and keep in touch with each other.
yeah.
What are some of the problems they're having?
Well, some of the problems they're having, most of the times they don't get to come on online classes because their mother has to go away with the phone that they should be using.
Yeah. So
And
how you deal with that situation? Do you call and tell them what you have gotten for the day? Is there such a
well, when
system?
sometimes when they don't have any internet and then put on data, and now I send them the work as a prefect, and when I send them the work, they do the work and send it to the school. So when the data done, they don't get to come to school, but they do get the work to do.
Wonderful,
So you
wonderful.
so you do have an active WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I do.
Mm. Your teachers still keep in touch?
Yes, you do.
What happens, young lady, when you don't understand what is happening with the work? How do you get your teacher to go over that to ensure that you understand it?
Well, you see, some of our teachers should give us their numbers, and when they're not busy, they will call us and say, "Get your book," and say, this this science is the habitat," and they will tell you, and then say, "You get what I'm saying," and they just call you when they have time. But when they don't have time, they make you know when to call them and stuff like that.
So there's always school.
Yeah.
There's always school. All right. Let me ask you one last thing. You are away from classes, but school is still in, and you are prefect. Your friends will call on you. You help them. Some of them with internet problems. You tell them what's going on. The teacher still checks in, and you still get going. You keep at this thing. What,
Yeah.
how do you think it can be improved?
Can you repeat that?
How can this be improved? Is there anything else you'd like to see to improve the situation?
I like to stay in home because like when the teacher is talking to you, I still get to see my friends. I still get to see my teacher, and the teacher is still beautiful. We still do prayer just like school and devotion. So it's really a bother to me.
So you really don't miss school that much?
Yeah, I do miss school.
You do,
But
but
I do miss school, but I'm still at home and I'm still happy. Where I'm it's too much, so we can't do anything about it. So I have to stay home. But I
Okay.
do miss school.
All right.
All right, Natalia, thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah,
Keep
thank you.
listening. There is so many interesting things that we're learning from all this conversation. When we return, we are going to speak to Natalia's mother, Kimberlyn Edwards. Kimberlyn Edwards is on the line, proud mother of Natalia Smith. Your daughter is missing school, but still she's being properly schooled. She gets by and she overcomes all the challenges.
Yes, sir.
You, at the very outset, what was the experience like?
Well, the experience, like for me, was really rough at one point when I hear that online class is going to start like sometime next week or something like that. I was wondering, for me, I've never been in an online class. I don't know what online class is all about for the first time. But my big problem was I didn't have any gadget for the online class because I have two children. So one going to Ascot, I one going to Ascot Primary. So I was wondering what am I going to do because none of them have any gadget to go on online. So I said that Natalia was kind of slow behind more than my son that is in the high school. So I decided to use my phone, go to work, leave her with the phone to get on online class. At first, she was having problem getting on because the link, she didn't understand the link. I didn't understand how to do it at first either. So it was like a week or two before she get on with my phone. So it was really rough. And not even that alone, I did not have any internet. I did only have to buy like credit to put on like
Data.
to put on the plan, and not even that. No, the artist part of it when the megabyte ready to run out is when she decided to start doing her work.
Yeah.
So them time that the megabyte just run out on her,
So,
can't afford the credit.
yeah, did you have a problem with the megabyte from the point of view that when you purchase a plan, the plan is not what it says it is because if it's a 30-day plan within 15 days or so, you're out.
No, but Mr. Myrie, that was not the problem alone. The problem was that I wasn't working.
Okay.
I was sent home for so much days to stay at home because of the COVID. So they lay off some of us to stay home. So even if you work at 2 days, you're home for the rest of the week. So that little money now have to put food together and buying credits. Now add up, Mr. Myrie.
So how you manage?
Yes.
Well, by the grace of God, I have my father who like bring me little food. Even Ascot, I am primary school. Natalia was one of the students who get food stuff from Ascot Primary. I have to give God thanks for that. I have to give them some praises. They always been looking out for some children that really needed this thing the most. Because Natalia get a food package from Ascot primary school. Then I have my father would come by now and then and bring us little food.
Yeah, but
So therefore, I could use the food money now to buy like more credit
wow.
to put on more plan that Natalia could get on with her work while my son was left behind. Still don't have a gadget to go on his online class as well. But by time goes by the grace of God, she was using the phone until the school get tablet there, and Natalia was one of the one who was chosen for one of the tablets. So Natalia get to be on the online class until I decided to sacrifice no one to get the internet for myself, which I have to pay that bill every month at $5,600.
But let me ask you, I want to ask you, don't you think more could be done in terms of negotiations between the ministry and the internet provider in terms of the packages, discounted packages for Wi-Fi services, that data plan? You don't believe that the ministry perhaps should be doing a little bit more, trying to engage the internet provider for something more for parents, especially during this COVID time?
Yes, sir. I think that, sir. I think that works like I'm looking at some parents now that have 5 children or even more children than that don't have a gadget. For none of those children or only have one gadget. Oh, I'm just imagining how that parents go through with all those online classes with children that have more than one children and plus no internet. Oh my God. I'm just imagining it, because if I have 2 children and I'm feeling it like this, I don't want to imagine another parent that have more children more than me.
I have a schoolmate and friend, I won't mention his name here, who keeps clamoring on Facebook that taxes on tablets and so on need to go, so that these things can be more affordable for students, for poor families, poor households. Eh? And we really need to have this discussion about how both the telecom providers, because this thing is not competition when we are talking about national good, you know, so that we could really see improvement in all this. One last question, Kimberlyn. If you were asked to make recommendations about anything in particular to improve what is happening, what are your thoughts? What would you be saying? What provokes the sort of thought about what you think is needed and required?
Well, what I think we needed and required for most of these children whose parents doesn't have it, they need like more tablets out for children that are slow learners, that are way behind. More tablets out, more gadgets, whether tablets or laptop, more out. So whether the Minister of Education or whoever it may be can come on board and help with some more tablets, laptops, or go on board and try to go with the network provider for assisting some of these children and parents that don't have it, that are less fortunate and don't have it, to help them out with this online program thing until school can get back on to normal.
You said
because
something.
honestly,
Yes.
Because honestly, sir, I'm feeling it right now, so I don't want to imagine what another parent that have more children more than me is feeling right now.
Do you find, though, that when they stay at home, that the cost of maintaining them goes up?
I don't. Repeat that for me, please,
That
Mr.
they
Myrie.
eat more when they stay home. When they go to school, they get a relief.
Is it costing you more to have your children at home learning?
Yes, sir. We'll eat more. They eat more. Lord God.
I know it's a problem.
It is a problem. It is.
Right round the clock, sir, them want something to eat. Right round the clock.
Do you find it difficult to monitor her? I know she's disciplined, she's a prefect and all, but to have her sitting and really paying attention all the time?
Well, for me, by sitting at home and watching her when I'm not going to work, I just sit aside and pretend like I'm not paying her any mind. But honestly, when it comes to class work, you don't have to wake her up at morning time for her class. I don't know if it's because she's a prefect, I don't know, but she's always on time. She's always like sending out information from her teacher to the children on the WhatsApp group that they have. She's just always involving our subject area. She always want to be taking part in every subject area that she's in. So when I call Natalia Smith's name, Natalia is not new to no teacher.
Okay. Kimberlyn, very, very good analysis of the situation, and your daughter really well spoken, and
Yes,
certainly
sir.
is an example to others. Thanks for raising her the way that you have.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're going to come back. Yes, yes, with
More.
more. Yes, man. And a mother and a son this time
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
return.
it's your son, right?
Yes,
right.
mother and son when we return.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. Looking at the problem that young children and their parents may have on account of the pandemic, where the online program sometimes doesn't go as well as it ought to. We have with us young Travis Wall.
Travis,
Yes, sir.
how has it been doing your online classes and away from school? What's happening?
So it has been good.
It has been good.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any problem whatsoever?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
Um, um, like when the teacher them actually teach us, and
Yes?
like like some people remember that they cannot remember like everything, you know. So if we're going to like Google Classroom and
Yes.
the teacher said work is in there,
Yes.
so you just like when you back at like usually with their school, the teacher will like explain to them more, and like who forget, then she can tell them back again what they must do. But when we define actually like Google Classroom, them do not really tell us 2 times, them just tell us 1 time, and then just send us to the Google Classroom just to complete the work.
Okay, very, very clear argument
Yes.
from you. We didn't get that before, but you will go to the class, but if you don't get it the first time, there's no repeating. So, you know, you're left. How do you catch up? How do you get back that information?
I have a cousin that like he's like my cousin, and me and him is actually in the same class.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, if me do not complete the work, sir, like if me do not really finish and him finish, he usually like take a picture of the work and just send it to me, so
Oh, oh,
I can just continue doing it.
Do you get help from your parents?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. How, tell us about how that works.
Um, sir, my mother helped me. She did a good job helping me. I was truly helped me, sir, and she's done a lot.
okay. That's so sweet of her, eh? Yes, yes. That's a mother's love. Travis,
Yes, sir.
you miss school?
Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
Travis?
yes, sir.
Do you miss school?
No, sir.
No? Why? Tell us why. Many children say they don't miss school. Because you have more time for yourself?
Yes, sir, sir.
Because you have more time for yourself? Why you don't miss school?
So like sometimes, sir, like usually, like when I want to go to school, sir, I usually like wake up so early, sir, and when I'm over at my mother, sir, she'll wake me up early. She'll have devotion, and then she we go on the classes, and then we just complete the work, sir.
Okay.
So you're comfortable at home learning.
Yes, sir.
Tell me,
Wonderful.
what time you would get up to go to school normally?
Um, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. That's not bad. Some children get up at 5, you know.
Yes, yes, and yes, yes. So tell me something. You are you are comfortable. You have your cousin to help so as backup. Do the teachers call sometimes?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So you actually feel like you're in class every day.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me talk to your mommy. Thank you so much, Travis. Give
Yes,
mommy the
sir.
phone.
Yes, this is mommy.
Hi, mommy.
As we suspected, there's a teacher at home.
Yes.
How you work it out? One child says that, well, he said that when they're going to the Google store that you will get some lesson from the teacher, but if you don't grasp it the first time, when you're in a little bit problem, is that where you come in?
Yes, basically, sometimes it's challenging because it's not a face-to-face, the regular class with the teacher, so they will not grasp. Sometimes they will not grasp the lessons as quickly as when they're at school. So my job right now is like to further explain what is happening.
I want to say
Um,
I want to say this, Arthurine,
yes,
because what your son just mentioned is very important. You go into the Google class, you don't understand, and it is not repeated, right? So lucky for him, he has a cousin who will help. So they back each other up with what they might miss. But
right.
shouldn't there be a
Repeat session.
checklist? Yes, a little section of the class to say these are tips to the to the subject matter. These are tips to help. You don't think
Well,
you?
I think his teacher in particular, his teacher, she has been a very good teacher from the beginning. She's very supportive. I don't think that if it's anything where he doesn't understand where Google Classroom is concerned, I don't think it will be anything that the teacher has not done, because I think the teachers, especially his teacher, has done a marvelous job so far in, really giving him instructions as to what is to be done.
Okay.
I think that what happens with the Google Classroom is that there are times, because it's not a one-on-one, face-to-face, kind of platform. What will happen is that sometimes the children themselves will lose focus. And I find that with him at times, he will lose focus at times. So sometimes the teacher might give him some directions, and he might not get it fully because he might be distracted doing something else. And that is where his cousin comes in at times because, as he mentioned, that both of them are are in the same class. So in terms of explaining and going through what is to be done, I think that the teachers so far, they have been doing a wonderful job in terms of that, and I must commend them,
Oh,
especially
okay.
his teacher, Miss Blake. Yes,
The teachers
wonderful
are to
job.
be commended, fine. And it
Yes,
seems as if at Ascot a real good job is being done. But you
yes,
mentioned losing focus from time to time because he may be distracted. Do you
right.
think, as a parent, especially for particular subjects, the presentations could be more appealing? Could be
The
more
presentation,
could be more child friendly, perhaps using songs, using poems to get the point across.
okay, so where that is concerned now, I have, it's really both of them, two of them I have going, two sons. And I find that he's in grade three. And so the classes that he has, they are more child friendly in terms of getting the lessons across. So they will introduce like YouTube, like lessons on YouTube that will appeal to them for their age group. Because his class doesn't last as long as my younger son, his class doesn't last as long as my eldest son.
Right.
So that is Travis, right? So I think because he's doing a GSAT, so what they're doing actually now is preparing them for high school. So they will get like research and they will not they will get kids friendly things to do, but not so much. What they really do are giving them things that they know that will prepare them for high
We are a
school.
little bit over, but I'll take trespass and give you a minute because your analytical mind is there and I
Yes,
know it.
yes, yes.
Tell us, is there anything that could have been done differently and better?
Differently. Is there anything that could have been done differently? I'm thinking about it. I don't know because I think they have tried to explore every avenue possible in
Okay.
terms of learning. Yes, I think so. I don't
But
think
still,
that.
and why we ask, why we press with this
Yeah.
question, is because
Hmm.
let's go right back to the ministry's report. Most
Oh,
primary level students are having a problem. So
oh,
fine, excellent that your son and children of Ascot, we spoke to a child in Clarendon, they're doing quite well. But
okay.
some are
Hmm.
struggling, and we don't
I
want
know.
any to be left behind. That's the
Right,
mantra of the Ministry of
right.
Education. What
That's right.
more we are almost searching together, though we are asking you, what more you think could be done so that no child is left behind?
Oh, okay, good. So, yes, so one of the things now I think that can be done in terms of getting devices for the children, because I know that right now there are a lot of children who is using phones. My son currently is using my phone because I don't have a device for him. He had one, but it crashed. Yes, so I tried, it wasn't working, and I tried to source the different parts for it because I didn't have the money to purchase one at the time. Because my daughter who is in high school, she's using my laptop, so I have to give him my phone. So that, in all, is a sacrifice for me. So that is where the government comes in, in helping to provide, devices for the children so that the online, work, like it can be a better experience for them, and so that and most parents are stressed because of that, because the lack of device. So that is one area that I think can be greatly improved.
Okay,
All right?
okay. All right. Um, this class could continue.
Yes.
And thanks for sharing
Yes.
because it's revealing. We're learning, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Arthurine, and say hi again to Travis for us, right?
Okay, will do. And thanks for having me.
Good. When we return, we are in the classroom with principals. Real chat.
Welcome back to the Real Chat. We are now joined by Mark Anthony Jackson. He's a principal over there at Ascot Primary. And we've spoken to a couple of the students, seem to be doing very well, the school on a whole. Let's hear if the principal gets a good mark himself, Curtis. Welcome, sir. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Tell us about Ascot Primary because we have had good reaction from your students. How is the overall performance, especially at the level we are speaking of where the pandemic has affected the learning curve and more has to be done? Is it that you are doing something special over there?
I don't know that we're doing anything special. I think what we have employed is survival strategy in the face of a pandemic. I must hasten to say that Corona came, and what it has really done is just propelled us further and at a more rapid pace into what we as a school had already started, because we had embarked on digitalizing the teaching learning process. Of course, we suffer. So the benefit from that is that most of our teachers were already aligned mentally and technically and technologically. They would have been halfway there. Some were already there. So that was a good premise on which to build to meet the demands that we now face from the educational landscape.
So let me ask you this. The harbored fears by most parents, teachers, as where it concerns your teachers.
I am not hearing you clearly.
Okay, as you were saying, you had foresight in dealing with digital work beforehand, right?
Right.
So you were preparing your staff for the digital platform before the pandemic.
Precisely so.
Let me ask you this, therefore. Was it something that you saw, or was it from the ministerial edict?
Well, I didn't know that we would have really had the pandemic, but I was looking at the transition in terms of education and the world at large, because if the fourth industrial revolutionized world that we are in embraces technology and internet, and so what I was really trying to do is to align Ascot to what is really taking place in first world country, because I knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. And as an educator, you have to lead by looking ahead and doing a proper forecasting.
So tell us some of the things that you were doing. How were you preparing?
All right. So we had persons from the Michael College who came in and taught us how to digitalize the teaching learning process. And so we started out by training the teachers how to use Kahoot. So all the teachers were using Kahoot and how to set the PEP question in Kahoot to get the students acclimatized to the use of technology. Also, we had a young man who came in every Friday to do animation with upper school students. Mm-hmm. So that is how we had the teachers aligned. And then Corona came, and what we had to do a lot of groundwork, because during the time from March to August, we had to use the teachers who were more technologically savvy to give the teachers, really, all teachers had to sit a practical test in how you use Zoom to teach. Mm-hmm. And they also had to do another practical test in how you use Google Classroom as a tool for teaching. Mm-hmm. And based on the results, we categorized them into 3 training groups, which is beginners, intermediate, and advanced, to make sure that everybody master the skills in order to be prepared for school, which I said would have opened in October, which did not materialize.
I want to ask you this, because I'm listening attentively. Let me break in here. This sounds like a blueprint for digital learning. Has the ministry engaged your school? How is this? Is it being shared with other schools? And the reason for this is, why I'm asking in particular, Ascot Primary is a school that has various students from varying demographics, right?
Sure, correct.
Good. And it's also in a very troubled belt of St. Catherine.
You could
And
say
here
that.
you are as a primary school showing light as to where we must go, where we can go. Is the ministry engaging you? Is this all this construct, all this model that you have at Ascot? Is it being shared?
I would say we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we post everything we do on it. We have a website. Also, when the pandemic struck, I was one of those principals who put together a YouTube video which was shared right across the educational landscape, including the ministry, to say how we can manage as a school. So my work was never hidden. If you go on YouTube now, you'll still find that video up.
I think what Curtis is really asking is about the feedback mechanism in terms of consultation before embarking on how we are going to attack this seeming problem. Did they ask for information from particular schools as to how best to treat with the situation?
Not in that way, but they have asked us to submit to them how we perceive going ahead to treat with what took place, which was the pandemic in terms of teaching, learning. And we would have sent back to the ministry to say the approach we would be taking.
Are you satisfied that whatever you sent, have you seen where it would have been used in the way going forward?
I can't say I have no evidence that it was embraced or it wasn't embraced.
Nice way of putting it.
And I ask this as a follow-up. We note, as we said at the very outset of the program, right, the very start of the program, we note the ministry's report. School closure has affected primary level students primarily. And here you are with this model, impactful model. Good? They are saying, the ministry is saying, that they are not considering it a crisis. Words to the effect, it's a chance, even opportunity, to be chipping away steadily at the problem. I want to ask you, man with the model, this problem that we have, does it take chipping away or does it take a radical transformation?
It takes a lot of chipping away, dredging, digging and excavation, anything you want to call it. But it's much more than chipping because
it's more than chipping.
As we speak, there's a large percentage of students who are not being reached because school doesn't exist face to face. As you gather the data from the various classes within the various grades, you realize that there are myriad of issues. And in order to reach these students, you basically have to use a clinical approach and kind of group the issues to decide, can I leave paper? Can I produce paper that is picked up on a Monday, returned on a Wednesday, marked and returned on a Friday for some? For some, based on where they are, the papers cannot reach them. So you have to also arrange for another group of teachers to say, okay, see how we can reach that group via WhatsApp. For there's another group, there is no instrument to use at all, even though they are exposed to Wi-Fi. And for another group, there is instrument without Wi-Fi. It is a multiplicity of issues. And so it takes, that's why I say it's more than chipping away to meet the demand.
I come back to the question of consultation and how that is dealt with, but
yes,
you know. But good show, and we see why you have done well, and you are in cahoots with others. What is cahoots?
I can hardly hear you.
What is cahoots? You're in cahoots with others, but what is cahoots?
I'm not hearing the question.
Cahoots, what is cahoots?
Oh, Kahoot is an online platform where information is given to the kids, but it's done in a game form. So when you have to answer the question quickly and you get points. And so it's kind of competitive and it's a game form, but it allows the children to have fun learning the content.
Okay.
But that was the initial stage before this came on. Now we have Google Classroom and the work is left there. One of the good things of this online thing, is the students can really access. For example, in Google Classroom that we have implemented at school now, and the ministry also has implemented Google Classroom across the schools. You can put the work there, put the video there with the content, and the children can wake up anytime they want in the night and go over this content and revise and so on. Unlike when they're at school and you teach a lesson and you move on. But then the question is, how many students are really enjoying the liberties of Google Classroom?
That is the
Not
question.
many.
That is the
and
question.
we do thank you for all the answers that you have given. Very enlightening, a good eye-opener, and certainly Ascot should be looked at. Thank you ever so much for your efforts and for your time. Mark Anthony
You're most
Jackson.
welcome, sir, and thanks for inviting.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Okay, as we promised, we're in class again with another principal. Judy Hardy, principal of Lanneman's Prep. The issue of students, particularly at the primary level, being affected because of school closure due to COVID. Is it something that we chip away at, as the Ministry of Education says, or is this a particular problem, type of problem that needs radical change?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Well, right now, this situation is one that needs to be addressed and needs a change. However, as principals, I should say prep schools principals, we try our best to work out the situation as best as possible. But it is not as easy as anybody would think it is. A lot of variables, a lot of factors, the matter of students getting on, device, although most of our students may have devices, but there are still some without device. The matter of supervision at home, all of those that have to be taken into consideration. But it really needs a whole lot more to get things going.
Were you any at all prepared for the pandemic? And I speak from the point of view that because of the digital age and internet and what have you, that some schools might have envisioned that we should start getting our teachers prepared for a new day.
Could you go again? Sorry, I didn't hear.
I was saying it was difficult to prepare for the pandemic, but being in the digital age, were we preparing to begin to teach in a digital manner?
Oh, okay, I just got you now.
Good.
Well, we weren't so prepared. It took a while, although we have computers and some of our people are computer literate. It took a while for the transition to get fully online. But eventually, when we did get online, things got on stream. We didn't get 100% students back on board, though. We got possibly in the initial stage, that is maybe in April when we started, we had maybe about 75 to 80%, about 80% of the students back online. And of course, we had to train the teachers. We had to get training for some of the parents because a lot of people didn't really get used to the Zoom class or get used to the online platform. So we had to do a lot of training. But it wasn't just an easy transition over to the straight online classes.
What do the students complain about? What do the parents complain about?
Oh, mainly, let me see, two things. The fact of getting online sometimes, the whole internet issue, the providers getting online, and also having support, parental support, having somebody at home to stay and supervise. Because a number of them still had to go back to work. Still had to go to work, so they didn't really have anybody to supervise the children. And that's one of our issues, one of our concerns.
What about recognition of students who didn't have device? Was anything specially done for those?
Of course, a few of them, we reached out to them and tried to help them to get device through past students and other foundations, assisted by getting some device for some of our students. Not all, but for some of our students.
Oh,
so we reached out to them.
So let me say this.
Yes.
Your past students, how are they helping?
Yeah, that's what I said. We reached out to some of the past students or the alumni and other foundations came on board and assisted to help with device, not only for students, but for also teachers.
How far are you behind schedule, that is behind curriculum, if you could measure it?
I wouldn't say we're far behind because we started in September as opposed to when the government asked us to resume in October. Most of us, not myself alone, but most private schools, independent schools, started in September, and so I think we're basically on track. As a matter of fact, the curriculum is modified now. The ministry modified the curriculum, so some of the objectives, they lessened some of the objectives, I should say. So I think we're basically on track.
Wonderful.
Our strength is how you keep connecting with your students, right? In talking to parents from primary school, Ascot Primary, they speak glowingly about how the teachers keep connecting with students. So they're monitored, supervised. Is that the experience at Lanamans? What is it?
Oh, yes.
What is it that
Yes.
you do specially?
Well, the teachers, well, every day their classes, they supervise them. And also we have a period like every 2 weeks. We ask the parents to drop off the books, the workbooks or the exercise books. And the teachers will come, collect, go through, just to make sure that what they're doing online is authentic or they are doing the work. And then they ask them to come and collect, get back the books and take them home. So that is one way. We have our register. We've tried to mark registers. If we don't see them, we have the office call to find out what is happening. And sometimes they'll say it's internet device, or they don't come on today, or they had an appointment. But we try through various medium. We have WhatsApp groups for each class, just to keep in touch with the parents, and also through email. So we try our best to use every medium to keep in contact with the parents.
Just one last question. Is there anything that you are seeing, visualizing, that can bring about this change that you need? Yes, it takes a little bit more than chipping away at it, as you said. What can tackle it by the horns?
Oh Lord, it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. It really will take a collective effort. Number one, because if we don't go back face to face, hopefully by January, if all things goes well, if it's less, if the spike is less, then the whole thing of the internet getting more coverage. More training, I guess, in some areas. But things like those we have to really consider if we really want to get this right, because monitoring is really the key. And from all levels, we really have to get the monitoring going up. But the device, for those who don't have device, because I still don't think we have the percentage of students that really need to be on in this nation. So more device, and also the matter of internet coverage.
Thank you very much.
And all of
Thank you very much, Ms. Hardy. Good. Nice talking to you.
Have some tea?
Good. We want to close this chapter, right? We have been having a very studied look at this whole issue. And clearly, school is not out until we speak to a former Minister of Education, right? He has the last word. Lawyer, journalist, talk show host, former Minister of Education, the Reverend Ronnie Thwaites. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yes, yes, Stratton.
All right, so Ronnie, beginning with the situation of the pandemic, is there any way that people could have projected that what would have been necessary to treat with not a pandemic, but increased standards in education in terms of digitalization, in terms of the teaching methodology as we move along? If we had projected this, could we have been further on the road?
Yes, I think we could, but there is no doubt that beyond what I will suggest could have been done, those who are in charge have been faced with a very big surprise. Let me say that the education system in Jamaica is good, but it is very heavy and highly bureaucratized and difficult to adapt to emergency situations. 5 or 6 years ago, we had a lively program for putting the best teachers in front of a television camera, a radio microphone, in order that those in the weaker schools, primary and secondary, could benefit from higher order pedagogy, not to displace their teachers, but to complement them. Regretfully, in 2016, that process was discontinued.
Why?
You would have to ask the person who was the incumbent minister then.
Were you and was it bearing fruit? Well, let me ask.
It was early days, Curtis, but it showed very good promise. And I'd like to pay tribute to somebody like Richard Lake of Burger King, who was in the forefront of that effort. And he, in fact, had a private channel that was delivering educational material, but it was not fully developed. But it showed where we could go. And had we been able to do more, and I accept some of the responsibility, we would have been able to be better prepared, let me say no more, for what has overtaken us this year.
Okay. Along that line, I make reference to a Gleaner editorial that's suggesting that certain media houses be incorporated for that sort of delivery, a radio station and the Public Broadcasting Corporation.
I support that entirely. And indeed, when I had the privilege of serving in government, I put it forward, but did not get any support from the administration at the time. I think that's an error, or was an error, and still is an error. There is no greater use or no more sublime public responsibility for a public corporation to devote itself to than the purveying of wholesome education.
That didn't happen as you would have projected, but the pandemic came and we needed to have reacted to it. Are you satisfied with the response level of the government in this regard?
No, I think that it's a measured no, and very careful of being hypercritical, because I'm still close to the Ministry of Education, particularly since the recent changes. And I'm very conscious of how earnest and effortful they are. But we haven't made the best use of those public facilities yet, although in partnership with the R.J. Gleaner Group and others, virtual education over free-to-air channels is far more extensive than it was before, but it is not yet as well coordinated as we needed it to be.
Let me ask you. The Ministry of Education says in a recent report that this setback, significant was the word used, setback for primary level students as a result of school closure for 9 months was not to be viewed as a crisis, but a chance, as it were, to be chipping away at the problem. I've read your column Monday last. You seem to be clamoring not for us to be chipping away at this problem, but for radical transformation. What say you?
Well, I stand by what I have written. I think the ministry is understating the extent of the educational deficit. It's not a challenge. It's not a problem. It is a disaster. And the results of their own assessment at the primary level proves this. And if you look at the international studies coming out of UNICEF this week, looking at the Caribbean and Latin America, they affirm the catastrophic, I'm choosing my words carefully, gentlemen, the catastrophic results of losing virtually a year of school. One can add to the science and the surveys, just one's observation of hordes of children, particularly in the area of the city of Kingston, where I concentrate, an area well known to the graduates of Kingston College and St. George's College.
Yes, it is.
And the fact is that children are understimulated, and many of them not stimulated at all. And this is disastrous. The principal of St. George's College, Curtis Myrie, told me publicly that 20% of her students have not yet haven't reported. She's not in contact with them. What does that mean? Holy Trinity High School, in between St. George's and Kingston College, the principal there was unable up to 3 weeks ago to be in contact with some 40% of his students. You think these students are not going to be disastrously set back? This is the most critical crisis, other than the threat to life, that we are facing, and I do not think that we are responding with sufficient urgency.
Well, what we have seen in the very area that you speak about, Ronnie, is the increase in violence in those areas.
And it is connected, Mr. Palmer.
It is. But how do we fix this? How? Because we can't, we're not chipping away at this thing. How do we address this?
Well, I suggest two ways. But let me make a general observation first. I had an extensive discussion with Professor Peter Figueroa, no doubt the most eminent of our public health specialists in Jamaica. Right, and he indicates that if schools are willing to use their facilities to stagger students, to instruct them in social distancing, insist upon the wearing of masks, that the possibility of infection in face-to-face learning is dramatically reduced, especially for younger children. The difficulty that we need to address is not that one, because of the view that I'm relating from Professor Figueroa, but it is transportation. And it cannot be beyond us to do what the government is trying to do now. They announced it this morning, which is to come to some arrangement with the factors who provide transportation, to do so in a fashion, in a way that minimizes the possibility of contagion. We have got to balance lives and livelihoods, and the livelihood of education is critical. It is a disgrace that the Jamaica Teachers Association remains dubious about face-to-face learning and is raising a problem for every solution to get the children back to school. I am disappointed with the president, the past president, and by virtue of his enunciations in the press this morning, the president to come.
In this crisis which has overtaken us, Ronnie, would it be good for having consultation between your minister and even yourself, who was there for the sake of the country? Or is the political divide as such that is infradig?
I believe the political divide is meaningless and derisory at most times, and it is ridiculous and immoral for there to be any caveat on the basis of political differences at a time like this. I am no longer the opposition spokesman on education, but I have found Minister Fable Williams and before her Minister Carl Samuda very open to consultation, and I am certain that Angela Brown-Burke, who now shadows the education ministry, if she reaches out and the minister reaches out reciprocally, that we can come up with a strong, united policy to improve our situation.
You mentioned engaging Dr. Figueroa for your general comments. You were going to two specific suggestions. What were they? What are they?
Two specific situations?
Such suggestions to address this problem.
Yes, and by the way, I'd like to add a distinguished alumnus on the other side of North Street, Professor Winston Davidson, who wisdom is not isolated on one side or the other, you know?
No.
I think you're being political.
No, he's being politic. Yes, so those are the two suggestions to transform what is happening.
One, stagger the students coming back. Yes? Bring them in one day, set them work for the next day, and bring in another set of students. In other words, that is the real blended approach that is possible at this time, guided by and in consonance with the protocols of the Ministry of Health. That's one. Two is to more artfully to organize a scheduled transportation system for our schools, for those coming in, so that they can be monitored to arrive and depart in the safest possible way. That can't be beyond us.
Final question. We have spoken to parents and principals of primary school.
Students too.
And students before you're coming on. One of the consensus that we draw from their answers to us is that what they have gotten from government is a lot of promises which largely are unfulfilled. Your take?
I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat for me, please?
We spoke to people before, principals, students, and
I
parents.
got that part. What was their concern?
That the government has made a lot of promises which have gone unfulfilled.
Yeah, well, let me comment. Poor government. The government has, the Ministry of Education and the government has no more money than they did before COVID. In fact, they have much less with the decline of revenue. There may be specific interventions that are of an emergency nature and have to be afforded. The government has done a good bit in terms of trying to provide devices for what is unfortunately a very limited number of students, perhaps no more than 20 or 25% of those who need it. But they simply do not have the resources now. And waiting on government to provide an ideal environment for back to school is not going to work. There has to be a partnership, because if parents and teachers think that they can fold their hands and wait until government is able to provide, then particularly the parents are going to reap the whirlwind with their children's underachievement afterwards. We have to do better than that. Certainly within the schools in the denomination that I'm a minister of, we are now trying to get all of our schools back with the consent of the Ministry of Health, with the knowledge of the Ministry of Education. But for God's sake, we can't wait on some directive and some check from the Ministry of Education to do everything, you know.
That's right. You're right.
All right, Sir Ronnie, that's very good of you. Thanks for joining us at Mahora and Gloria.
A pleasure. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Good.
All the best. Good.
Right. from the classroom to the crease.
Yes.
Real chat. Sports chat.
Indeed. Topic, cricket.
Cricket. We are getting restive. For real. Fuming even at our fortunes at the crease. Local cricket. Jamaica once the region's champions. Just keep tumbling. O'Neill Cruikshank, operations manager, Jamaica Cricket Association. Very confident, Stratton, that things can be restored. Welcome, O'Neill, to Real Chat.
Thanks for having me, Strats and Curtis. It's been a long time.
Yes.
And thanks for making the effort despite. You say no more. but
Yeah,
given,
right.
O'Neill, the situation with the West Indies cricket, we hear what is happening in New Zealand, Jamaica cricket over the years since Tamara Lambert and that good run that we have has fallen on rocky ground, as is elsewhere perhaps in the Caribbean. But tell us, for Jamaica's sake, what is being done to get back to those heady days?
Well, Strats and Curtis, we have always heard that cliche term. If you fail to plan, you're likely planning to fail. And I think that has happened with us from 1995 with Cricket West Indies, or West Indies cricket. And I think even with us here in Jamaica, when we were on top of the Caribbean, I don't think we put the necessary plans in place. Fortunately, we have been able to recognize that. And in 2018, the board had a retreat. And what we decided then was to make sure that we put the necessary plans in place. And we have done that. Now, we have not yet seen the results, and we never intended to see the results until about 2022-23. I don't know what this COVID thing has done, but we have put some plans in place. We have, for instance, begin to look at cricketers at an earlier age. So from age 13, so we now have an under 13 competition. We have specific programs for our under 15, under 17, or under 19. We have made competitions at the club level for those teams and widened it. And we have seen some results because, in from about 2014, we have not been able to produce good youth cricket teams. In 2018, we were almost there in terms of winning the under 15. And at last year's under 17 level, we were there with the under 17. We were in the championship game, if you want to call it that, because we were playing against Barbados in what would have been the championship game. Rained out and Barbados won. If you look at the Scorpions, we now have a new coach, very meticulous coach in Kohli. And we have, at one point, we were going to be down, and then the performances just got there, and we were almost, I think we were tied third, fourth, if you want to call it that. Right. So I do believe that we are seeing something. I don't want to talk about we have gone around in a corner, but we have a plan, and that's the most important thing.
The plan, listening to you attentively, speaks to an emphasis on young cricketers, right? Young school cricketers, right? The days of the Matchup Cup, we're trying to reach that again?
Well, we don't. Well, what a lot when you use Matchup Cup, Curtis, you're dating yourself.
No, I only speak to it as a model and blueprint, not as years.
Right. I understand, but as I said, what we did, what we have done is that you're right that we focus on our youngsters because we realize that we have to get it right early, right? Apart from those things, some of the other things that we're doing is that we're developing a coaching methodology.
But let me break in here. Cost, especially at that early stage, equipment cost, that's really a bugbear, How are we going to get up? How are we going to address that? Because that seems to be a recurring problem.
Right. So what the JC has done, we understand that, and we have come up with some ways. One thing that we have done, we have a clothing sponsor. And what we have said to that clothing sponsor, every year you give us 30 kits. We have 13 parishes in terms of Kingston and St. Andrews, we call it one. And we also include Portmore. So what we do every year, we give the parishes at least 2 kits, right? So that they can go into the schools and allow the schools to use cricket gear. We have gone around the schools and said to them, listen, while it is true that it will be good for you to have the nice, proper cricket bat, for what we want to achieve with the technical development of these youngsters, you don't need what we would call a willow bat. You can make a bat and teach the youngsters how to do the thing technically, right? So we understand all the things that are preventing us. But what we're doing is finding ways to get the thing done. Because I don't know about you, Curtis, but I know that I played with bunker bat as a youngster growing up, right? And we learned how to do the thing properly using that until, when we got what was called a cane bat, and then we got to willow bat. We knew what it was. So we can do those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that because we have a challenge, we put our hands down. So we have noted what the concerns are, what the challenges are, and we are responding to them, because if we don't, this sport that all of us love is not going to be around much.
All right, thank you ever so much. Much more will be said and can be said. And certainly we know that you're a man who don't back down from facing
He
tough
said
questions.
he's willing to talk to us
Yeah.
for 3 hours,
Yes.
So guess what, Anil? We'll have you back.
Anytime, gentlemen. And thanks for having me despite everything.
Yeah, okay. Man, thanks for joining us also.
We'll be back. All right, we are back at the crease. Yeah. Real chat. Yeah. We have the thing. All right. We are chatting now.
Let's introduce it for us.
Nehemiah Perry, former Jamaica and West Indies cricketer. You believe an administrative shake-up is necessary, no?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know, because we have been playing this kind of cricket for a number of years, and it's no different. We look good against England when England came here in the Caribbean. I think it was about 2-1. Then we went to England, we won the first test, and then we lost the last two. And perhaps person was saying they're seeing some signs, they're seeing some hope. I still believe that there's hope.
The question to you about needing a shake-up was more for the fortunes of Jamaica's cricket. I'm sorry.
Because yes. I wasn't hearing you so well. I don't know.
Okay. We just spoke to Mr. Cruikshank, who believes that we can restore our pride of place.
Right.
But we noticed that you have been sending signals, no? That you may offer a challenge. Why is it at this time you're considering such a thing?
All right. It's simple. When you look at Jamaica cricket for the last 6 or 7 years, we have seen decline in all the areas, on the 17, on the 15, on the 19. The senior team, apart from the Tamar Lambert era when we won about 5 years in a row, our cricket has been going down. And then when you look at the supporting mechanism, which is clubs and parishes and schools, we're still not seeing the quality coming through. So the future is very, 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 very dim. And if you don't do something now from a leadership standpoint, by putting in some measures, have some shake-up as it relates to school cricket. How can we improve the school cricket, club cricket? Because that is where your feeding ground is. Now, think about it. What you have here now will stop one day, and you must have a transition. moving into senior cricket. So I believe that with a different mindset, um, uh, with some good support with you and so on, and a vision, and then everybody in sync with the vision and work assiduously, I believe that we can achieve great things. But we must be deliberate. We must seek sponsorship because cricket cannot run without money because it's a very expensive game. So we can't just sit back and hoping and all these things. We have to be very deliberate and have some serious campaign and mark how we're going to market our cricket and how it's going to be very attractive to younger persons to want to be a part of. That is the big picture.
As we just said earlier, Nehemiah, we spoke to O'Neill Cruikshank, Operation Manager at JCA. And he has some plan. He said we failed to plan in the past and now they are making plans to do better. But is that sufficient? Because I think the problem with sporting organization in Jamaica is what is happening at the administrative levels. Where
Yes.
we see everybody talking about government's commercialization, which you just mentioned, etc. How do we get money in the game and how do we manage the thing? Are you satisfied with the level of administration in Jamaica's cricket?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, you have to cast some of the blame on cricketers because it's a two-way street, right? It's a two-way street, so everybody needs to be working hard. And what you do need, I think that management, strong leadership is very, very crucial in this time, right? I remember went for an interview for the Western Cricket Board, at the Western Cricket Board level, for selectors, and they asked me the question that if you have one of your superstar being a disruptive and breaking the curfew, and as a part of management, would you then maybe you say use a Chris Cale or use a star like the Bravo, if you would make even a decision to send him home? I said absolutely, because if you are disruptive in my team and you're not complying, it have a rippling effect because it's going to filter down into the younger players and they're going to believe that what you do is okay. So you have to have strong leaders and strong management who make decisions that will benefit the team, not a person, but benefit the team. What is right for the team and what is right for the association. So those are the kind of things that I believe we can tighten up on in terms of management standpoint, and I don't see anything coming through. I'm not seeing anything popping out on me for the last 6 years and so forth. They would tell you, well, we have a couple of players who playing in the T20 leagues all around the world. Jamaica have things, but has it really achieve the goals? The ultimate goals is to produce test cricketers in abundance. Jamaica has not been producing the quality that we used to in the years gone by, and as such, I believe that leadership has to play a better role in terms of the structures and strategies how you're going to go forward to improve our cricket.
One last question, Neymar. One last question. Everybody mentions marketing the game. Everybody mentions the different matrix that is needed, promotional matrix that is needed. What is it that you're thinking about specifically? And B, why really, I'm going to ask you, why should we be listening to you?
Now, you see, all right, the biggest problem we have is the quality where you get. So, okay, so you have to tackle coaching, and coaching has to play the biggest part here. I believe that if you, in conjunction with the schools, in conjunction with ISA, in conjunction with the Western Cricket Board, how can we get funding for? Because we know the school going to struggle to get, probably pay a full-time cricket coach and all these things. And, what are the priorities? Because some of the school priorities not cricket. Some of the schools are football and track and field. How can we get funding for proper first-class coaches that are level 2, even level 3 coaches at the school. So you need the best coaches targeting schools. We must have a clear pathway on how we're going to keep the youth them interested now from the school to club. So the club now, structures now need to change. The club structures now need to have a more advanced coaching now to take you from X.
And why should I be considering you?
Yeah, right. So those are the things that I think of. I'm thinking of every single weekend that you're going to have. You will have a camp in every single parish. We're going to be targeting age group between 12, and we're going to be targeting age up to 19 to 20. And we're going to have specific numbers of persons, maybe 20 players from each parish, and we're going to have camp on a weekend, every Saturday and every Sunday, especially in the summer, because I think that's where we need to start, because those are our future, and we're going to have to ensure that we have a good solid foundation to get to the Jamaica level, and then now to West Indies level. I think that's where we want to start, at focusing 60-70% of our energy into the youths and clubs and parishes.
Thank you very much, Nehemiah. That sounds like a plan. We're going to get you back because there's a second inning and more for you to be providing possible answers in us navigating all of this poor fortune, right?
Yeah,
making
no
things
problem.
better. Good?
No problem.
Appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much.
Thanks a lot.
All right, then. Take care.
Good. We'll be back with Real Chat.
All right, welcome back to the Real Chat. And we have online former Jamaica head coach, Junior Bennett, man who kept on winning for a number of years. Junior, welcome to the Real Chat.
Okay, thanks for having me.
He says he wants to take strike at you first, Junior. So I'll allow him.
All right, Junior, we had a Nehemiah Perry before you, speaking on the fortunes of Jamaica and West Indies cricket. And also O'Neill Cruikshank, the operations manager, who spoke about failing to plan and what we need to do to get back on track. You have been there. What really is the reason behind Jamaica not doing as well as we did when you were coach of Jamaica's team, where you won, what, 5 straight at the senior level? And had some good underage teams?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. One, I think finances have a great part to play with it. 2, I don't believe that we have enough school participating in the schoolboy competition, whereby you get some good quality under 19 players from. And 3, I think at the parish level and the club level, we have to look at our youth program at those levels, both the association and at the club level. Those are 3 main things that I believe that we have to work hard on to bring back our cricket.
What did you say of the parish and club level? What is happening there?
I did not hear that.
At the parish and club level, you indicated that there are problems there. What are some of the problems at that level? And I say that against the background that in years gone by, you'd find youngsters who were at Kensington and Lucas going to Excelsior, KC, Wolmer's, etc. So they were benefiting from both club and school. Is that the situation, or is it just essentially clubs?
Well, not even the club now, you don't have those amount of players from, right?
Yes.
You have less people now helping out young cricketers. For example, days gone by, at every level, at the club level, at the parish level, and even at school, you have some past players, some senior citizens who really take control of some youngsters, help them out financially and otherwise. You're finding less and less people now volunteering their service in cricket. And you have a negative effect on the sport.
Yes.
But let me ask you this. You have less and less of those persons, as you said. But let's look at it in the mirror. And let's look at all the images. The youngsters are swayed now by other things. There's basketball, there is football, there's track and field. I believe that the message about how we may make a livelihood out of cricket, right? And how it is that our senior players can get involved, that is not a program, a harnessed program from the Cricket Association or even the West Indies Board. What is it what are we failing at in engaging the youngsters outside of the cost of equipment? There are other factors, clearly.
Yes, definitely. Definitely there are other factors. I believe in days gone by, we have a much stronger youth program within the school, because that's the area where we normally get most of our players from for youth cricket is the school system. And as I said before, we are playing less cricket in the schools. So I think that is one area I believe that probably JCA have to really get down, have a good long talk with ISA, so that they can solve that problem. Because to be honest with you, it's just about, in rural Jamaica, we normally have 80 schools participate in Headley Cup. We just have about 30 odd in the last 5 or 6 years participating in the Headley Cup competition.
Don't from 80 to 30.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So, the pool is not huge in terms of youth cricket again. And it definitely have a negative effect on the cricket.
So how do we get this going?
As I said before, JCA and ISAD, they have some form of dialogue.
Okay.
There's no question about it. They have the same means and way to talk to the principal and so on, and get more schools start to participate in Headley Cup and Sunlight cricket again.
What about what I call the throughput, Junior, in the sense that you had some good cricketers from States, Homewood, Wolmer's, Casey, etc. in previous time coming forward, but they do well up to the youth level, but then after that they disappear. What is happening there?
Economics. You find after they leave high school and so on, most of the players then launch out into different areas to really survive, because things definitely getting harder and harder. So by virtue of that, we're losing a large number of them migrated to the States, to Canada, and so on. Right now, if you look at the commission, the U.S. Open that will be taking place the next few days,
yes,
majority of the squad are Jamaicans. On most occasions, I miss some youngsters, and actually they are in the States.
Okay.
All right, one last question, Junior. 5 consecutive years, as Stratton said, eh? There was magic on your part. Tell us a little about it, no? What is it
magic?
What is it that you did right?
You want the secret?
Yes.
Over to you, Junior.
Well, a lot of it goes down to hard work, right? We have a good team. First, we have a trainer, David Bernard, senior there, and I was blessed with some good managers and so on, and also a good crop of players who have coached from youth days right throughout. And I think that is one of the important things, again, in terms of managing those youngsters. When you coach them at the youth level and you move on to the senior level, understand their work ethics and everything like that. So it's much easier to deal with them up top there. But again, you have to put in the work, and it wasn't easy, but we worked extremely hard. I have a set of ambitious youngsters. There's no two about it. Those guys were really ambitious and really put out the work.
All right, Curtis, I did last question. I didn't have mine.
Okay.
Last one. In terms of the retainer fee that that the senior players are getting, do you think that we need to be innovative and for some of the promising youngsters, you give them a little stipend to carry on as they move from one level to the next?
Definitely, I think that's a welcome out there, because majority of these youngsters, without that the retainer fee and so on, they will really struggle to get to practice and so on. So I think that should really be incentive to really motivate them to even work harder and to try and achieve more out of the cricket. Because I mean, in these times there are a lot of money in cricket, and they have it there to go there, work hard, and earn those money. So I think there's a lot of incentive to really encourage these youngsters to work a bit harder.
Okay. All right, Junior. Thanks a lot for responding to us, and we really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
We'll keep chatting about cricket when we return.
Welcome back. The West Indies cricket team keeps tumbling, and we continue to revolt in the pavilion. International cricket commentator, the indomitable Joseph Reds Pereira, now joins us to explain what is happening. Reds Pereira, welcome to the Real Chat.
Hello? Hello?
We had him online.
We had him online. All right.
Could we just
we'll
try
just yes,
once
we'll
more
try
at a
and
time? Because Red's a noted cricket commentator with the West Indies team over many, many years alongside the likes of Tony Cozier.
Right.
Really carried cricketers from
Unavailable.
all over the world.
Please.
Yes, still trying to get Reds. Don't know what happened. We had him online earlier, and I'm just trying to clear up whatever the problem is. Yes, and certainly a man who follows the cricket. In fact, when I spoke to him about joining us, he indicated that the test match begins at about 6 o'clock their time, which is about now. So I don't know if he's watching the cricket. All right, so let's take a break and we come back in a minute to tell you what's happening.
Good, good, good. All right, we are back again at the crease. Yes, we're having some technical issues trying to get Reg Pereira, right, to talk to us. But I get he's online again, and we will take strike again.
Right? The international cricket commentator, the indomitable Joseph Reg Pereira, is with us. Reg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Reg, the state that West Indies cricket is in, I know that a test match is about to begin. You're interested in that as a historian yourself. But what is happening with West Indies cricket? We seem to be growing hot and cold, promising good performances. We saw our campaign against England, both here and in England, where we won the first match, failed to effect a draw to come away with an honorable series. Now down in New Zealand, not doing as well. What is the problem with West Indies cricket?
Well, it seems to be the same pattern from our last victory against England. Inconsistency, and not producing the kind of overall team performances that will take us off the ladder. And I think that after this tour is finished, and I hope that we'll do a lot better in this test match than the previous one, there really need to be an honest discussion by the West Indies board on whether they need to make adjustments, re the coaching staff, whether they need to make adjustments, re the coaching staff, and whether they need to look at the whole question of the selection committee and reverse back to not just two selectors and the coach, but maybe bringing in someone like Jeffrey Dujon or Ragonaut, the Trinidad opener who played a couple of test matches, and maybe giving Roger Harper a casting vote.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned reversing to having the selectors and so on. Is it time for more of an input from the coach? Does he need to be listened to more than before? How much more of an impact does the coach need to have?
I didn't get the question, unfortunately. I didn't get the question.
All right. Is it now time for more weight to be placed on the coach, on what he's seeing as his team than before?
No, I'm not suggesting that Simmons must be changed. What I'm suggesting is that we have a more experienced batting coach, someone like Desmond Haynes. We probably have maybe someone like Vasper Drakes, who had made a good impact with our fast bowlers, replacing Roddy Eswick. Maybe Crandon could come back to join Vasper Drakes. And I think basically we need to shake up the coaching staff and give it a new flavor. There's sometimes when if people are in a position for too long, the self-life goes. I don't think the present batting coach, for example, has got the depth of experience that is needed to take us to a higher level. And I probably should wait until this test match is over. But we are going live, and
Reg,
I'm
we stand,
answering the question.
As we stand, many people, especially in Barbados, etc., are saying that perhaps Simmons is not the right person for the job. The players are too comfortable. They may breach certain things earlier when he asked a certain players who had turned their back on West Indies cricket to be central to the team. Is this something that you would look at, that perhaps not the right man at this time?
Well, I think that an initial error might have been made in offering Simmons a 4-year contract. You know, if you bring on a coach who has got a sound track record of doing well with some of the higher rated ICC coaching staff people from various countries, you can expect maybe a 4-year contract. But I would have, and I said this before, I said this some time ago. Initially, I thought they should have maybe given Phil Simmons a 2-year contract and then play it by ear and see how he goes in those 2 years. That probably would have, you know, just about taken in the World Cup in Australia next year. That was my feeling then, and it is still my feeling now.
All right, Red. Let us then look at this test match, and certainly we'll be back with you to analyze that as we move forward. But I know that you're keen on looking at the opening stanza of this test.
Again, I'm struggling to hear your question. I must apologize, but I don't want to come up with an answer, and I'm really totally off target. Can I get that question again, please?
Just we were saying that we need to await the results of this test series, and then we'll join you again to get your opinion on where we go with West Indies cricket.
Well, you have the Bangladesh tour coming up. But just before we look forward, let's look back at the opening test match that we got beat so badly in. I was disappointed the way we bowled. I mean, we didn't bowl inside a fourth stump. You had to make New Zealand play. You had to make New Zealand play. And I think it's worked out where 37% of the deliveries by the West Indies, New Zealand didn't have to play at. Mm-hmm. You aren't going to take wickets that way. You aren't going to take wickets that way. And what I was surprised at the interval, I did not see any adjustments. I did not see that the coaching staff had zeroed in and said, hi, we need to get closer to off stump. I didn't see that, and I was disappointed. I mean, no coach could, be responsible for how people bowl in the first session, but at least at the break, you can emphasize that we really need to get our line better. I also saw a 7-2 feel. Now, if you have a 7-2 feel, you are forcing people to bowl outside the off stump because you have no cover for any shots off the pads through mid wicket, through forward square leg, etc. I was disappointed with that. If you look at,
as I said, let us look at this test match. We'll be back with you to get further analysis, but we are stretched for time, so let's talk again. We really appreciate you joining us.
My brother, I'm really struggling to get the question, and I must apologize again.
Okay. We should apologize to you. Thank you. All right? Good.
back with Real Chat for this interesting segment. Yesterday, Wednesday, December 9, was the anniversary of the tie test between West Indies and Australia. I'm going to give you some facts now. The opening test of the West Indies tour, Brisbane, December 9 to 14, 1960. Very interesting scoreboard. West Indies electing to bat 453, Sir Garfield Sobers 132, Sir Frank Worrell 65, Alan Davidson 5 for 135. West Indies 284 in their second innings. Worrell again hitting 65, Davidson 6 for 87. Australia
505, Norman Neal 181, Bob Simpson 92, Sir Wes Hall 4 for 140. Australia in their second innings 232, Davidson hitting 80, Hall taking 5 for 63. Both teams scoring 737 runs each.
Jamaica's John Leslie Jackie Hendricks, formidable West Indies wicketkeeper, was behind the stumps. He takes tails now out of school. You'd want to hear this story. Welcome, Jackie Hendricks.
Hello, how are you?
We are good.
I am good.
Good, good.
Tell us.
I think I think when you were talking about the scores, I think you forgot to mention one W. Hall, who got 50 runs in the first inning.
Yes, indeed.
And Joe Solomon had 65 in the first innings along with Sir Frank. And then Sir Frank would have been out the same way. Caught Bo Davidson for 65 in both innings.
But Joe was expected to make 65.
Yes.
But Wesley Hall made 50. A very important inning.
Yes, important statistic left out. Yes, indeed.
Take us through your memory of that tie test, which won over the Australian and West Indies ever since would have been a team that they love to see.
Well, I don't know. I think that to me, one of the features of the match was 132 by Gary Sobers in the first innings, when he was devastating where Beno was concerned and McKiff. It was one of the I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the finest innings that I have seen in Test cricket. It was I can remember him straight driving Beno. And Beno, who was a brilliant fieldsman, getting out of the way and allowing the ball to go straight through for 4.
What are some of the other things that you remember?
Huh?
What are some of the other things that you remember about this particular match that you perhaps that haven't been shared with the public before now?
Well, there's so many things that it was a magnificent cricket match. I mean, when you think that these two sides battled for 6 days and both had the same scores at the end of it, and the fielding of the West Indies, I mean, Conrad Hunt's running out of Grout, who ball looked as if he was going for 4 to square leg. And Conrad chased it down, picked it up, and sent a rocket back to Alexander, and ran out Wally Grout on the third run, which would have been the winning run. It was a magnificent throw, and then of course Joe Solomon's two hitting almost from square on, hitting the stumps to run out these other two batsmen. It was unbelievable. It was
Were you surprised? Did the outcome startle you? What were you thinking? What were you guys thinking? We have this in the bag?
Well, at one stage, it looked as if we were going to win, because I think Australia, if I'm not mistaken, were like 90-something for 5 in the second innings, having to make 233. Yes. And it looked to me as if it was in our grasp. And then Beno and Davidson put on an excellent partnership. I think Davo got 80.
Yes, Davis and Wally Groth got 50.
And he was,
Wally Groth
and I think due to a very bad call by Benno, he was run out for 80.
Yes.
And that sort of opened the door for us to make a comeback and win.
There is a story about that last over with Hall and Worrell really planning. What was that about? Tell us about that story.
The what? The last over?
The last over, yes. How it was executed.
Well, I don't know. I really do. I really don't remember too many details. I remember. Who was it now? I may be wrong on this, but I remember Wes Hall bowling. I think it might have been to Groth.
Yes.
And he spooned the ball up to a very short mid wicket, and Rohan Kanai was almost under the ball, and guess who came along and took over from him was Wes Hall, the bowler, and dropped the ball.
And then there's a story of the last over where
that was, I think it was the last, I'm not sure, I think it was the last over.
Worrell spoke to Hall and said, all that you do, don't bowl a no ball. And then at one stage, he moved him from a position and then moved him back to the original position and said, the batsman thought I did something, but only me and you, we did nothing.
Nothing.
Whatever you do, don't bowl a no ball.
Right.
But Wes was superb in that test match. Well, the first innings 50, and his bowling. He certainly shook up Ian McDonald. He gave McDonald a very serious blow in his chest, and really was he was on top of his game and bowled very quickly and very well. But you know what is very interesting? It has not much got to do with the actual between West Indies and Australia, but we were in those days they had 8 ball overs.
Yes.
Yes.
And the average time that we took to bowl, both sides took to bowl their overs was 4.5 minutes.
Wow.
And when you think of today, the cricket today, when they're taking 5 minutes to bowl 6 balls, you know?
But the series itself, 2-1 to Australia, a drawn test, a tied test, and Australia won 1 test by 2 wickets, really signaled that the West Indies had come of age. Tell us about the reaction to the Australian, to this West Indies team, and the respect which the West Indies earned.
I didn't quite hear that, sorry.
The test series, 2-1 to Australia, with a drawn test and the tied test, and Australia winning 1 by 2 wickets. West Indies could have won the series, but tell us the respect which that caused Australian stuff from the West Indians since then.
But the remarkable thing about it is the last test match, the last test could very well have been a tie as well. Because I will remember, I think it was Alfred Valentine bowling to Wally Groth. And Groth played a sort of tried a late cut. Missed the ball. The ball went down past Alexander, and the bail suddenly dropped. Well, it took a little time to drop off, and so there was an appeal for bowled, which the umpires turned down, and that would have meant that Groth would have been out, and the scores were very, very, very close at that stage. So that could have been a tie test as well.
Let me ask you this in wrapping up. Before as Stratton takes the last word, what was the feeling like? What was the feeling like after the series? Were you there? Did you feel like champions? Was this on the road to becoming the real kings of cricket?
Well, I think that that tour by the West Indies in '60 to Australia resurrected cricket in Australia from all reports. I remember Johnny Moyes, the great Johnny Moyes, who was a fine commentator, wrote a book, an excellent book, and in which he gave so much praise to the West Indies and Frank Worrell and Benno for having this sort of cricket that was was something that sparked the game again in Australia. We had, I think there was 93,000 people at Melbourne for the Saturday of the last test. Think of that, 93,000 people at Melbourne Cricket Ground.
And then that parade of the team through the city in Brisbane after the test match.
Yeah, and the crowd, was what they said it was about a quarter of a million Melbourneites lining the streets.
And as I ask again, what did it mean for the West Indies?
What?
What did it mean for the West Indies, that tour?
Well, I don't know. I think that it also helped our cricket immensely.
Right.
Because it captured the imagination of the cricket world. It was not only Australia and West Indies, but the entire cricket world. It had captured the imagination of them for a series that was so exciting, and runs were scored, wickets were taken, fielding was good, and as I say, it sort of resurrected cricket, certainly in Australia.
Okay.
All right, Sir Jackie, thanks for your memories. We'll talk again.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Back with Real Chat in a moment. It was a glorious day in time. It was it meant so much, not only for Australia, as he said, but for us.
Yes.
For us. It was a turning point.
Yes.
Right? This is a turning point, the coronavirus.
Yes.
And how it is impacting lives, right? And the International Labour Organization, ILO, has reported that wages have been falling and in some cases growing slowly. During this pandemic, in 2/3 of the countries where such a data is available. Troubling. Wayne Chen, President of the Jamaica Employers Federation. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. What are
I'm
what
correct.
Are,
I'm the former president.
Huh?
I'm the former president. I'm the former president.
Former president. I'm very sorry. Former president of the Jamaica
Caribbean Employers.
Right. What is happening? In a word, what is happening? What is going on?
Well, as you would realize, we're in the midst of a once-in-a-century global pandemic. And there has been severe economic contraction throughout the world. I should add that the Caribbean region is the world's most tourism-dependent region.
Mm-hmm.
And with the collapse of international travel and tourism, the Caribbean has been the hardest hit region in the world.
Hardest.
So when we look worldwide, we would have seen an economic contraction in virtually all the world's countries. And in line with that has been a reduction in economic activity and a reduction in real wages. Jamaica, bringing it closer to home, has lost an estimated 100,000 jobs. And it comes almost ironically, hot on the heels of the lowest recorded unemployment in Jamaica's post-independence history. Jamaica, it is estimated, will have an economic contraction this year of around 11%, which has no precedent in Jamaica. No hurricane or any other economic disaster has caused such a contraction in this country. Not since records were kept and these things were measured.
With this contraction, 11%, tell us the fallout in terms of other economic downturns, the linkages being disturbed, etc. We know the situation with farming, especially with the rain. Where are we now? Are we in a worse position than even the pandemic would have determined with that 11% fallout?
I must confess, I'm not hearing you so well, but there are some sectors that have been harder hit. The biggest contraction, of course, are those that are dependent on tourism and hospitality. So right away with the hotels, many closed, but continuing to run expenses, I must add. Services that would have involved air travel, so the traffic through the airports has been down severely. Services that would have had a high level of patronage from tourists, and we'll be talking about attractions, we'll be talking about on-the-ground transportation, we'll be talking about restaurants, and so on, have also seen a severe decline. And I should add, as I mentioned, restaurants, that because of the restrictions, the health restrictions that have had to be implemented to control the spread of the pandemic, many other activities have also seen a downturn. So if we're to look to another sector, distribution, restaurants, those sort of services have seen a decline. You know that public transportation, fewer vehicles on the road, children not going to school. I'm standing right here in Mandeville, now in Manchester. I can tell you that every taxi driver will tell you that they have seen a severe decline in their income because the steady stream of income they would have in the morning, taking children to school, and in the afternoon taking them back home, that has dried up. So it has been...
It's challenging. But let me ask this.
It has been very, very challenging out here.
Let me ask this. Taking note of the constraints, taking note of the reductions, yes, we still speak of reimagining ourselves. We still speak of reimagining all that we take to the market. From where you stand as the Employers Federation, what is your take on this? How do you view this? How do we start reimagining things? Our worth even?
Well, you know, apartheid, a part of the regional and global tripartite discussions, the discussions between employers, labor, and government, has been about how best to meet the future of work. And what do I mean by the future of work? I mean by work where we employ the new tools, the internet, where globalization makes geography less important, where technology makes geography less important, where new generations of young people are not as tied to the idea of working for the same enterprise or same organization from the day they leave school to the day they retire, where the idea of gig work, the gig economy, becomes more relevant. So even before the pandemic, the discussion had started as to how do economies, small, vulnerable economies like Jamaica, diversify away from the dependence on tourism or the dependence on any single crop, agricultural output, primary products with a mining of bauxite, and to make the economy more, open up the economy for more opportunities for our young people. Because the issue of finding decent work for generations to come is first and foremost in any development goal for this country. So we see the globalization and the rapidly advancing technology and use of technology in other countries, on the one hand, as a threat, and on the other hand, as an opportunity. So the discussion had already been started around with how do we rise to meet this challenge. No, it's not going to be easy. It will mean a different type of education in our schools. It will mean the building of a particular type of infrastructure to allow Jamaicans, every Jamaican citizen, to have access to good internet. And when I say access, I mean separate apart from coverage, that it has to be affordable.
Yes.
It's pointless if internet is everywhere and our people don't have access because they can't afford it. So if we are going to plug Jamaica into the global economy and allow our young people to unleash their creativity, allow our young people to work and use their ingenuity, and I wouldn't like to tell you how we have manifested that ingenuity in good and bad ways.
Yes.
In many good ways, because...
Let me ask you this, though. One thing that is intriguing me, Wayne, if you're hearing me.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Well, the foreign exchange situation, we would have been losing something on the level of tourism, etc., as income earner. But then again, are we spending less on import as a consequence of that? Remember, the war for skills for some time. How is that being balanced out?
You have asked and answered the question.
Yes.
What many of us would have caught on to is the fact that while we have lost that huge inflow, billions of dollars per year, I don't remember the exact figure now, for tourism is also heavily import dependent because many of the inputs are imported.
Yes.
So while the inflow has fallen, so has the demand.
Right.
So while it has not balanced out one-to-one, the hit of losing 3 or 4 billion a year in foreign currency has not been as severe as that, because out of that 3 or 4 billion dollars, perhaps 3/4 or more would have gone out to pay for many of the inputs.
Right.
We therefore have to be focusing on import substitution, food security, and I hear folks in the creative industries now saying, "Hey, over here we have got muscle."
Well, can I soon come to that one, Curtis. I want to say this because it's an important point. Jamaica has been consistently, and here you have to tip a hat to the diaspora, the Jamaican diaspora. Jamaica has been consistently one of the countries in the world that received the highest level of remittances from our cousins and brothers and sisters abroad.
They keep us afloat.
There was a dip right at the beginning of the pandemic, but the figures suggest that we are almost back to where we were a year ago, which is almost counterintuitive because the countries that are housing our brothers and sisters, the United States, the UK, Canada, have all seen their own issues. And there's no doubt that Jamaicans living and working abroad have all seen their own issues. But the strength of remittances from our family abroad shows also their commitment to keeping us alive here. So remittances have almost back to where they would have been, which is almost counterintuitive, but we're thankful for that. At the outset of the crisis, I recall the government opening up a line of credit, I don't remember the exact figure, to make sure that foreign exchange would not run out.
Right.
So there was some preemptive action that dampened any crisis, any foreign exchange crisis. And as I say, remittances, which have been our most important net earner of foreign exchange, has returned almost to normal.
Okay.
We have some, on the issue of import substitution.
Yes.
You know, Rahm Emanuel famously said, you know, you must never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah. Right.
One thing that this has done, and in my economic orthodoxy, but one thing the pandemic has demonstrated, it's not just a question of if we can buy it abroad cheaper, let us forget about trying to do it locally. It has exposed the fragility of global supply chains.
Yes, indeed.
It might look like a small thing, you know, but some of us may not recall that a couple of months ago you could not find a single pack of cup noodles on the shelf in Jamaica. You know.
That's
right.
Now, luckily, throughout the crisis, while there were times when the stocks of imported rice and flour and cornmeal, there were times when it ran low. I mean, below what you feel as a comfortable reserve, but it never gave up. But it reminds us that we might have just brushed with disaster this time. But so, local agriculture, local food production will have to always be there as a base for us, even as a reserve. But ever mindful that it can't be a blank check to grade down on the local consumer. I was in the market just 2 weeks ago when local sweet peppers hit $1,000 a pound.
Oh, yes.
Sweet pepper, yeah.
And hello, don't even talk about tomatoes now.
Yeah, I'm coming.
And at the same time, Wayne, whilst we are importing similar goods as substitute, the price remain the same or even higher.
Well, boy, I tell you.
Anyhow, you're going to have to jump in on us again, right?
Whenever you're ready.
Yes, because this conversation.
We have to discuss.
Right. We'll keep talking about this. Thanks.
Take good care, gentlemen.
Okay, good. Back in a moment. All right, we just had Wayne Chen, former president of the Jamaica Employers Federation, weighing in on this whole issue of surviving on salary cuts, because this is what it is. The ILO says in 2/3 of the countries where the data is available, wages are falling or growing slowly. Here with us, Danny Roberts, the president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. Have I gotten that right?
No. I'm the head of the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute.
Okay.
I'm no longer with the trade union movement.
Okay.
So now head of the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute, which is at the UWI Open Campus.
All right. You would have taken particular note of this ILO report, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Share them with us, Daddy.
Well, let me start with crises. Invariably, under normal circumstances, it is the labor market that feels the greatest effect of any crisis.
Right.
As it was in 2008, so it is with the coronavirus. It creates unemployment, with stagnation, and certainly the coronavirus has affected the conditions of employment. So there's no surprise that the coronavirus would have had a negative impact on the labor market and therefore affected wages and so on and so forth because of its impact upon general production and productivity and the general flow of commerce activities. We have heard in Jamaica anecdotal evidence of organizations that have had to either lay off workers, and we still have not been able to get the precise numbers of persons who have either been laid off or made redundant as a result of COVID. Those are still being tabulated. And secondly, we would have heard of anecdotal evidence of wage cut in order to maintain employment level and to ensure that there is
To spread the pain.
labor cost remains is contained. That we have heard, certainly I've heard of a couple of cases in which wages have been cut. But but globally, and the ILO certainly has been tracking it since the advent of the coronavirus, that they have been able to say that many countries, including in Latin America and the Caribbean, that they have seen a dramatic fall in real wages, and that in some instances that workers have had to suffer cutting wages, or even cutting wages as a result of absolute reduction in the amount, or for those persons who may have been on an hourly rate wage, they would have gotten less as a result of less man hours of work, because we have lost a considerable number of man hours. And again, the ILO has tracked that as a result of COVID, because of the partial lockdown, certainly first here in the Caribbean, and some scaling back of operations of a number of companies. So it is not surprising that the results of the study has indicated that is taking place. The real question is, how do we recover from that? What are the steps that are going to be taken in order to ensure that the recovery from that restores employment level back to the pre-COVID period, and that provides security of employment and protection for workers?
But if we may not be at the level before COVID for some time, just exactly what can be done at the workplace to sort of ease some of the pressures? What creative ways can we be more supportive of our workers?
Well, sorry, there are a couple of things which are very important. And we start the analysis by examining the studies which have been done on previous crises and the kind of response that has been contemplated in terms of ensuring that recovery takes place very quickly. So there are two basic things that have come out of those studies. One is the importance of maintaining your current staff, that your human capital pool ought to be, as best as possible, organizations must ensure that they maintain existing human capital capacity, because what you don't want to do when the economy begins to pick up is have to start over by retraining a new set of workers because others have either been laid off or they have lost their jobs for whatever reason, etc. And so one of the things that has been encouraged is the need to make sure that the crisis ensure that there's a maintenance of basic human capital flow, and also that organizations remain open. To a large extent, we have not, and again, I don't know what the final numbers are going to be, but I think that to a large extent, we have been able to maintain the current workforce, to a large extent. And so therefore, we have satisfied one of the two conditions, which is to ensure that the skills are there.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Danny. How does this situation test the trade union movement?
Sorry?
How does this situation test the trade union movement? How does it put your job?
Well, I think the trade union, two things. One, there obviously be some fallout in the from trade union in terms of unionized workers who may have been affected by the pandemic, who may have lost their jobs, been laid off, made redundant, etc. There may be some element of fallout in that regard. I think that the second thing is would have been the effects that the COVID has had on the collective bargaining process, and therefore there's less of a focus on trying to get a wage increase as against us trying to maintain and hold jobs. So I think that there's, in my mind, there'd be a emphasis of trade unions would have to place on ensuring that jobs are preserved until we are out of the woods. But there's an important equation which both the ILO, the World Bank, and the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean have spoken of, which is something now from a governmental standpoint we need to take on board and act with immediately. There has to be in our legislation provisions made for the protection of employment. There has to be in our legislation provisions made for the health and safety of our workers. And there has to be some element of income protection. So one of the things that certainly has been bandied about for some time is the question of unemployment insurance. And this provides some level of income protection for workers, because what it means is that in a crisis we can be assured that workers will still have an income, and therefore they can expend that income on goods and services to keep the economy going.
Right,
that is very critical. An economy cannot survive if there is no level of demand to meet the goods and services that are available. So the income for workers is critically important. And so one of the ways in which you protect the income is through the unemployment insurance.
Well, let's see how that goes now, but the suggestion has been made by yourself and others, and certainly we thank you for joining us, and really food for thought. Did I say that?
All right, Danny, thank you so much, right?
Okay,
and just like how Wayne has to return, you will have to return, because this discussion...
I shall return.
You shall return. All right. Okay, good.
Okay. All right, good.
Right, thank you so much.
Coming close to the end of the...
When we return, the wrap. Okay, you've heard from the man from the Employer Federation, Wayne Chen. You've heard
from the man from the trade union, Danny Roberts.
Right. We're going to be speaking with someone who, working at a juice factory, is now living on a salary cut. Stacy, how are you?
I'm okay.
Tell us what has been happening. How have you been coping?
I've been coping through friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Tell us, in terms of the job itself, is it reduced wages for the same amount of work, or just reduced time on the job?
Time reduced, less work time.
And what is the impact on the general staff? About how many people have been going through this in terms of percentage? 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, or how many would have been suffering your fate?
No, it's just like the whole head get cut, like 65 and over. But otherwise, everyone else is there, but they get less days.
What is everybody else saying? What are they, I mean, you must be talking, you as a group, about how life is challenging. What are the others saying?
Well, everybody talks, you know, so it's rough, nothing now gone. Everybody talks, but It's not gonna get better.
Yeah, but
This,
have you and others
what's
been?
going on?
Have you and
No,
others
it's
been?
not gonna get better.
Have you and others been creative? Are you finding some other little thing to make
To
ends,
do?
make
Yes,
ends
to
meet?
make ends meet?
Well, I was trying before the corona, but since it no make no sense to look anything, a lot of people not working through it.
So I mean, you do have enough buyers now, or people with the income to assist that process?
Yeah.
Tell me
without
something,
the-
Stacy. When you look at yourself, all right, fine, you have been working at this factory. You ever thought about what else you could do?
Yes.
This gives you a chance to really examine all the other things that you could do. What else would you like to be doing?
I would like to run a restaurant.
You're a good cook?
Yes.
And a good manager?
Yes.
Yes, well, okay.
All right.
I think
so
I could
all you
manage
need is
that.
the funding now.
Huh?
All you need is the funding, the financing.
That's why I haven't started it.
yes, because that's a problem. So we need for the government now. We need for
our agencies,
other agencies to be seeing how they can help persons who have lost their jobs, persons who are living on reduced salaries, to see how they can engage other things and to make their lives meaningful, right?
Okay.
You would agree with that?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. How is your family coping?
Well, they're the one that's helping me out.
Okay.
Some of them are helping me out.
You
Some
have
of them
young
are
children?
No, some of them not in the position to help.
Okay.
Some help me help some.
Okay.
Well, all right. It is a struggle. It is a challenge to all of us, and we hope things will get better, right?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Stacy. Thanks very much for talking to us.
All right. Thanks.
Good.
You're welcome.
Right. We've come to the end of another edition of Real Chat. Last words, final words?
The difficulty is that everybody is feeling the pinch. So there are others who, with a kind heart, will help. But there are so many people to help, and those who are being helped are being depended on by others to
Right.
help. So, it's a sliding scale.
And I'll tell you this, even when you're looking help, there are others still depending on you for help.
Yes.
It's a link that has to, it's a chain that has to be held together by all the links.
From the outset of the corona outbreak, my main pet peeve is that in planning, we didn't plan how to get local products distributed to needy areas.
Yes.
There was not an organized plan to move the goods out of the rural area into populated areas.
And we have to change our look at agriculture, because it's not just the regular crops, but what now can be byproducts, right? We have to get that going.
But do we have the young hands who will do the work that is required?
That's another edition of Real Chat. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Right? We'll be back on Thursday. Remember now, from here on in, it's Thursdays from 3 to 6.
Real Chat.
Chat your chat.
Any chat.
Real Chat.